No one expected war that day. The Galactic Council had gathered to witness the last royal will of King Davaris, ruler of the planet Varel 9. The huge golden hall was filled with alien leaders, nobles, and powerful generals. But there, standing, awkwardly in the corner, was the only human in the room, Lieutenant Rian Hale, dressed in old military armor with dust still clinging to his boots. He didn't even want to be there. Rian had only met the king once, during a rescue mission where he'd pulled the monarch out of a collapsing rebel base. It was business, duty, nothing more. But for some reason, the old alien king had taken a liking to him. And now, weeks after the king's sudden death, Rian found himself summoned to Varel 9 without explanation. A hologram of the king flickered on. The crowd quieted. "I, Davaris the Seventh," the king's voice echoed, "leave my ships to the defense fleet, my vaults to the high priestess, and my daughter, Princess Zilara, to the one soul who never asked for anything, Lieutenant Rian Hale of Earth." The room froze, whispers spread like wildfire. Some laughed. Others gasped. Then one voice rang out above the rest. "He gave her to a human?" It wasn't a question. It was a mockery. Eyes turned toward Rian, who stood completely still. He looked up at the platform, where a tall blue-skinned woman stood. She was silent, her silver hair glowing under the light. Her face was calm, but her eyes were distant, cold. Her long ears twitched once. Her expression was unreadable. Princess Zilara, the only daughter of the Varelian throne, and the one whom the council secretly called the Cursed Beauty. They had all tried to hide her. Rumors of her curse traveled across systems. That her face could frighten children. That no noble would take her hand. That her presence was bad luck. But now she stood in front of them in a shining silver dress, elegant, proud, alien, and impossibly beautiful in her own way. But no one dared say it, because the mockery had already begun. Large creature from the Turgan Empire let out a belly laugh. "Perhaps humans have strange taste. Or they breed with shadows," another whispered. "They should check his brain for viruses," a third added. Rian didn't move. He felt heat rise in his chest, not from embarrassment, but from anger. They weren't laughing at him. They were laughing at her. The princess had done nothing. She simply existed. And they treated her like trash. He stepped forward. "If this was the king's will, I accept," Rian said calmly. Gasps followed. The princess turned her head slightly, her blue eyes finally meeting his. For a moment, there was surprise in her gaze. Then it was gone, replaced with quiet curiosity. The council erupted in chaos. "He can't do that. It's against tradition. This is a mockery of royal blood." But the high priestess raised a hand, silencing them. "Let it be known," she said. "The will is final and binding. The human has accepted. The princess is now under his care." Outside, shadows moved. Unseen to many in the council, a group of armored assassins had already entered the city perimeter. Someone had paid for the will to be broken, not with words, but with blood. And Rian and Zilara were their target. As the official ceremony ended, and the two were quietly escorted from the chamber, a storm was already forming. Rian noticed that the princess did not speak, not one word. But she walked beside him like she had known this would happen. Like she had expected betrayal. In the vehicle outside, Rian finally broke the silence. "I didn't ask for any of this." She turned slowly toward him. "I know," she replied softly. "That's why he chose you." He looked at her again, closer this time. Not through the eyes of a soldier, but through the eyes of someone who had seen too much war. She was not cursed. She was tired, worn down, yet strong. A quiet strength that most would miss. Then the sky above them exploded. A missile slammed into the side of the royal palace. Dust and fire rose into the sky. The driver swerved hard as alarms lit up inside the armored convoy. More blasts followed. Soldiers shouted over the COMMs. It had begun. Not just an inheritance, not just a marriage, but a war. And Rian was now the only thing standing between the mocked alien princess and extinction. Asterisk, the explosion shook the ground like thunder. Sand and dust slammed into the windows as the vehicle swerved hard through the desert streets. Rian grabbed the side rail, keeping his balance as the armored convoy raced forward. Princess Zilara didn't scream, didn't panic. She simply watched the burning sky through the window calm, as if she had seen it all before. But Rian knew. This wasn't just a random attack. This was a message. "They want you dead," he muttered, switching on his comlink. "Central, this is Hale. The convoy is under fire. Get me a safe corridor to the outer ridge." "Negative," a voice crackled back. "Hostiles are everywhere. You need to disappear. Now." Rian looked at the princess. "We're not going to the palace bunkers." "They control the palace now," she said without emotion. "The council allowed it. The king's death was no surprise to them." Rian frowned. "You're saying this was planned?" "I'm saying they never wanted me alive," she said. "Not before, not now." The vehicle jerked as something hit the back, then again. A second explosion tossed the rear guard transport into the air. The shockwave flipped it like a toy. The driver screamed something in an alien language. Rian reached forward and yanked the manual override. "We're going off-road," he said. The driver didn't argue. The vehicle jumped a low wall, shot through a tight alley, and roared across a dry canal toward the open dunes. Behind them, dust and fire filled the horizon. Zilara turned toward him. "Why are you helping me?" Rian didn't answer at first. He was trained to complete missions, follow orders, but this wasn't duty anymore. This was something else. He thought about the council's laughter, the cruel stares, the way they treated her like a mistake. He had seen monsters in war, but even monsters had some code. What they did to her was worse than war. It was shame, because you don't deserve to be hunted for something you didn't choose, he said. Her expression didn't change, but her eyes softened slightly. "You're the first to say that." A voice came through the comm again. "Lieutenant Hale, we've lost your tracker. Are you alive?" "Alive, moving, and being chased," Rian answered. "We're heading for the Red Dunes. If you can't send help, don't bother calling again." He shut off the line. The desert opened wide in front of them, massive red dunes rising like waves. It was hostile terrain, but perfect for hiding. Perfect for losing pursuers. The old maps in Rian's mind sparked. He remembered the location of an abandoned outpost left from the early days of the Human-Vorel Alliance. Maybe still working. Maybe not, but it was their only chance. Behind them, the sound of engines grew louder. Enemy pursuit vehicles, sleek, black, and armed. Hovercrafts with mounted plasma guns. They were catching up. "We won't outrun them," Zilara said. "No," Rian replied. "But we can make them crash." He reached under the seat and pulled out a compact mine dart launcher. With a calm grip, he leaned halfway out the window and fired into the sand behind them. One of the pursuers exploded in flame and metal. The other swerved wildly, hit a dune, and flipped into the air before crashing in a spiral of smoke. Rian slid back into his seat. "That buys us 2 minutes." Zilara stared at him again. "What?" he asked. "You're not like other humans." He smirked. "You haven't met many." "I've met enough," she replied. The vehicle finally reached the top of a steep rise. Below them was the shape of something long forgotten, a metal outpost half buried in red sand. Its solar tower still standing like a broken spear. Rian drove straight toward it. Inside, the silence was heavy. Dust and echoes greeted them. Rian kicked in a door and led her inside. It was dark, but dry. No bodies, no signs of battle. Just old machines and memories. "This'll do for the night," he said. "Tomorrow we decide what to do." Zilara walked slowly around the dusty room. She touched an old chair, then sat down with perfect posture. "You really accepted the king's will," she said. "I did. Even though you knew what people think of me? I don't care what they think." She looked at him quietly. "That may be your biggest mistake, and for the first time." She smiled, not a full smile, just the corner of her lips. But it was real, honest. Outside, far away, ships searched the sky. But for one night, in the middle of the desert, a human soldier and an alien princess sat in silence, both hunted, both unwanted, and both more alike than they had ever imagined. The night in the outpost was quiet, but only on the surface. Rian sat near the doorway, his rifle resting on his knee. He didn't sleep. He couldn't. His ears stayed tuned to every wind gust and every creak of metal around them. The place might have been abandoned for years, but it still felt alive, like it was watching. Princess Zilara was quiet too. She had taken a corner of the room, her silver white hair glowing softly in the dim emergency light. She hadn't asked for food. She hadn't asked for comfort. She simply sat there, her back straight, hands in her lap, like a queen who had lost her throne, but refused to bow to fate. "You don't sleep?" Rian asked softly. She looked at him. "Not when I'm hunted." "Good habit," he said. "You were trained?" "I trained myself," she answered, "after I realized no one would protect me." He nodded slowly. That line cut deeper then. She knew. In every war he'd fought, he had met survivors, people who had no one. But Zilara wasn't just a survivor. She was born into royalty and abandoned by her own court. "They're still searching," he said. "Your father must have known this would happen." She hesitated. "He did." "Then why pass you to me?" Rian asked. "He could have sent you with elite guards, or hidden you on some backwater moon." "Because those people would follow orders," she said. "You follow your heart." Rian wasn't sure if that was a compliment or a warning. "I didn't want this," he muttered. "Not the title. Not the council stairs. Not me?" she asked. He looked at her. Her voice wasn't angry. It was neutral, calm, like she already knew the answer. "I didn't expect you," he replied. "Honestly, but I don't regret accepting." For the first time, she showed something more than quiet control. Her eyes blinked slowly, and her hands relaxed just a little. He changed the subject. "This outpost, we can stay here for a bit, but it's not safe forever. There's a hidden vault in the southern ridge," she said suddenly. "Old Varel tech. My father showed it to me when I was young. We could hide there, if it still exists." "Coordinates?" Rian asked. She nodded. "I can guide us." He stood. "Then we leave at dawn." But before he could turn, she asked, "Why do you protect me?" "I already told you." "No," she said. "You gave the easy answer. But why risk your life now when every faction in the council wants me gone?" Rian was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Because you remind me of someone. My sister. She used to sit like you, straight back, proud face, even when she was afraid. No one believed in her either. Not until it was too late." Zilara didn't speak. She simply nodded once and looked down. Outside, the wind picked up. In the shadows of the canyon, something moved, silent, sharp, and watching. By morning, they packed quickly. Rian had found 2 working bikes in the outpost garage, old military models, still dusty but functional. He gave Zilara the one with better armor. "You know how to ride?" "Yes," she said. "Do you?" He grinned. "I've outrun alien tanks on one of these." The ride was fast and rough. Sand stung their faces as they sped across open dunes. Zilara moved like a soldier, balanced, alert, focused. Rian was impressed, though he said nothing. They didn't need small talk. The air between them had changed. Not friendship, not love, but something solid. Trust built through shared fire. Hours passed before they reached the southern ridge. And that's when they saw the trap. Smoke. A destroyed caravan. Alien bodies on the sand, burned and still fresh. Rian raised his hand. They stopped behind a tall dune and scanned the scene below. It's too clean, he said. No scavengers, no damage to the goods. Just corpses and perfect bait. Zilara narrowed her eyes. They know we're coming. Then something shimmered on the far ridge, just for a second. Cloaked figures. Waiting, we can't go forward, she said. Rian nodded. But we can go around. She pointed toward the rocks. There's a narrow path behind that ridge. It leads straight to the vault. Then that's our way in. As they turned their bikes, a sniper beam flashed across the sky, missing Rian's head by inches. Sand exploded near his feet. The trap was now active. They were running out of time, and the entire council's assassins had just found them again. Asterisk, the sniper beam sliced through the air again, this time closer. It hit a metal rock behind Rian and sent sparks flying. Zilara didn't wait for orders. She turned her bike sharply and raced toward the narrow ridge. Rian followed right behind her, keeping low, zigzagging through the terrain. More shots came. They weren't trying to kill. They were trying to herd. Rian saw the pattern. They were being pushed toward a specific path. A trap inside a trap. But they had no choice now. The open desert offered no cover, and the rocky ridge was the only escape. Zilara reached the first outcrop. Her bike leapt over a broken stone bridge and vanished behind the rise. Rian took the same jump, landing hard. His wheels skidded, but he kept control. They sped through the narrow pass walls of jagged red stone rising on both sides. Shadows moved above them. Rian could feel it. They're on the cliffs. He shouted that Zilara didn't stop. Faster! But the path turned suddenly into a tight canyon. Ahead of them, two armored figures dropped from the cliffs, landing in front of their bikes. Their glowing spears lit up. Rian didn't brake. He raised his pulse pistol, aimed, and fired mid-speed. The shot hit the first enemy straight in the helmet, blasting him into the canyon wall. The second swung his spear, but Zilara slid her bike sideways, kicking up sand in his face. She jumped off mid-move, landed gracefully, and struck him in the throat with a hidden blade from her sleeve. He dropped instantly. Rian stopped beside her. Since when do princesses carry hidden blades? Since I stopped trusting bodyguards, she said, already climbing back on. The path narrowed even more as they rode on. The rocky canyon finally opened into a hidden valley, a forgotten place. Vines covered the broken stones. Strange blue flowers grew through the cracks. In the center, half buried in the ground, stood an old metal vault door. Rian parked his bike. Is this it? Zilara nodded. My father said it was built during the old wars. Few know it exists. They approached the door. No scanner, no buttons. Just an ancient lock that needed a special code only she knew. She placed her palm on a metal plate and whispered in Varelian. The door rumbled, then slowly opened with a loud hiss. Inside, it was cold, silent. Empty metal halls stretched deep into the underground. Dust floated in the air like slow snow. Rian activated his helmet light. Let's hope the power grid still works. Zilara reached the main control panel and typed a long code. Sparks flew. Then lights flickered on one by one. The place was alive again. Rian looked around. Secure entrance. Deep underground. One way in, one way out. It's not a palace, she said, but it's better than being out in the open, he replied. We can rest here, regroup, plan. She nodded, but her face showed concern. You don't think they'll stop, do you? Rian asked. They won't, she said. The council paid too much. I wasn't just a shame to them. I was a threat. Rian didn't understand. Why? You were never in power. Exactly, she said. But my bloodline is pure, the last true heir. If I'm alive, no puppet they put on the throne can rule without resistance. My father knew that. So they want to erase you. Erase your name and replace it with someone loyal, she said. Someone they can control. Rian leaned back against the wall. He had been part of many wars. But this one was quiet, political, cruel. They didn't want explosions, they wanted lies to win. He looked at her again. In the flickering light, her blue skin seemed to glow like crystal. She looked tired, but calm, brave, focused. You should know, he said. There's a bounty on me now, too. She smiled slightly. Then I guess we're both cursed now. Rian laughed softly. Good. I hate being hunted alone. Just then, the security panel beeped. Zaylara turned to the screen. Her smile faded. What is it? Rian asked. She stepped back. They found us, she said. They're outside. At the entrance. The lights dimmed. The vault had become a tomb. And now they were trapped inside, with no help coming. Alarms flashed red. A soft voice from the wall speaker said, "Vault integrity breached. Outer door compromised." Rian dropped his bag and ran to the control panel. The security cameras showed shadows moving through the entrance tunnel 5. No, 6 figures, armed, silent, moving like professionals. They've sent assassins, he muttered. Real ones this time. Zaylara stood beside him. How long do we have? 10 minutes, maybe less. She turned, walking calmly toward the center of the vault where old weapons were stored. Then we prepare, Rian blinked. You're not hiding? I've hidden enough. She opened an old locker and pulled out a sleek plasma blade, its edges still sharp after years. Then she took a shield smaller than a soldier's, but strong. Designed for a royal, Rian grabbed his rifle. And extra charges. He scanned the room for anything that could give them an edge: gas vents, choke points, defense panels. We hold them at the main hallway, he said. Narrow space. One at a time. Zaylara looked at him. And if they use grenades? Then we use their bodies as cover, he replied with a small grin. For the first time, she smiled back, this time wider, real. You're strange, human. Strange keeps me alive. They set up fast-tipped over crates, powered up the shield walls, and set explosive darts along the lower corners. Rian kept watching the hallway. The lights flickered again, then silence. No footsteps, no voices, just quiet. Too quiet. Zaylara held her blade tightly. They know we're ready, which means they'll come smarter. Suddenly dash boomed out. The outer wall shook violently. Dust dropped from the ceiling. Sparks flew from the side panels. Then a second boom. A hole blasted open in the rear wall 1. They hadn't secured. It wasn't an old entry, it was dug. Laser melted rock, silent approach. They tunneled in, Rian growled. Smart bastards. The first assassin jumped through the smoke. Rian shot him mid-air. One blast, gone. Another came through faster. Zaylara moved forward and struck clean across his leg. He fell. She finished him without mercy. Then came the rest. 4 shadows. Plasma. Guns blazing. Rian grabbed Zaylara and rolled behind the crate as shots blasted past them. The crates held for now. He looked at her. You ready for this? She nodded once. Yes. He tossed a flash grenade over the crate. Boom! White light filled the vault. Rian jumped out, firing clean and sharp. One enemy dropped. Zaylara moved fast, silent, smooth, and deadly. She cut the arm of one attacker, then spun and blocked the next shot with her shield. The attacker panicked, and she drove her blade into his chest. 2 remained. Rian fired again, missed. One assassin fired back, hitting him in the shoulder. He shouted in pain and dropped to his knee. Zaylara ran to him, blocking the next shot with her body. Blast hit her shoulder and threw her back. No! Rian roared. He dropped his rifle and grabbed his sidearm. Fast, angry, clean. 1. Shot dead center. The last assassin fell. Silence returned. Smoke and fire filled the vault. Rian crawled to Zilara, his arm bleeding badly. She was breathing, but her skin was burned where the shot hit. "Stay with me," he said, voice low. "I'm fine," she whispered. "You were loud." He laughed softly, holding her hand. "You're lucky I'm here," he said. "No," she replied. "I'm lucky you stayed." Alarms finally shut off. The vault had survived, but both of them were hurt badly. Rian wrapped a bandage around her arm. She did the same for him. Neither said much, but the way she looked at him had changed. Her cold expression was gone, replaced by something warm. Something real. Trust, respect, something more. They were no longer protector and protected. They were survivors. Together, outside. The enemy regrouped again, and far above the ridge, a dark figure watched from a hidden ship, a new hunter sent by. The council. Bigger, colder, smarter. And this one wouldn't make noise. Asterisk, the fire inside the vault had died down. Only smoke and silence remained. Rian sat on the floor, his back against the wall, eyes half closed. Blood had soaked through the bandage on his arm, but he didn't care. He had kept her alive. Princess Zilara was resting now, quiet, her body covered in bruises and burns. Yet, she didn't complain. Her breathing was slow but steady. She was tougher than most soldiers Rian had fought beside. She opened her eyes. "You didn't run." "I never do," he said softly. "You could have left me," she whispered, "before this even started. Let the council have their way." Rian looked at her. "And live with myself afterward?" "No." She sat up slowly, her silver hair messy, skin darkened by soot and plasma marks. Even with pain on her face, her eyes glowed with something new, fire. A quiet kind of beauty. She touched his shoulder gently. "You've already done more for me than my entire bloodline ever did. You're not a burden," he replied. "You're a fighter." They just couldn't see it. A soft alarm beeped again on the control panel. Zilara stood and limped. Over. Her hand hovered over the screen. Rian joined her, and together, they saw it. A ship had landed above the ridge. No council flags. No COM signal. Just dark readings. Stealth. One single life form. And a heat signature that didn't match anything normal. "A hunter," she said. Rian narrowed his eyes. "No backup?" She shook her head. "They don't send backup, not with him." "Who is it?" "They call him Vorsk," she said. "He doesn't speak. Doesn't miss. He was created, not born. Built by the council for one purpose, killing those who can't be allowed to live. And I guess we're at the top of that list," Rian said. Zilara touched her side and winced. "We won't survive another fight." Rian thought for a moment, not head-on, but maybe we don't have to. She looked at him. "You have a plan?" "A dumb one," he replied. "Perfect," she whispered. He reached into his old military pack and pulled out a black chip. It was old tech, Earth-made, forbidden by most galactic rules. A gravity destabilizer, illegal, dangerous, and exactly what they needed. "If we can lure him to the central chamber," Rian explained, "we trap him inside and trigger the destabilizer. It'll collapse the ground under him." "You'll fall with him," she said. "Not if I time it right." Zilara grabbed his arm. "You're not doing this alone. You can't fight like this," he said. "I don't need to fight. Just distract." He stared at her. She wasn't a broken princess anymore. She was someone who would rather die fighting than hide again. He nodded. "Then let's end this." They set the trap together. Rian placed the destabilizer in the floor, core of the central chamber, and wired it to his wristband. Zilara took position near the inner gate with her blade, ready, blood still drying on her skin. Minutes passed. Then, the vault doors opened. Slowly. No blast. No sound. Just the shape of a tall black armored figure walking inside. Vorsk. He didn't blink, didn't breathe. His face was covered by a steel mask, his arms filled with weapons built into the suit. His presence was cold. Like death had entered the room. Rian held his breath. Zilara stood her ground. "Princess," Vorsk said in a low, unnatural voice, "you should have accepted your fate." "I did," she replied. "But it changed when the human accepted me." "You are not his to keep," the assassin said. Rian raised his rifle. "I think she decides that." Vorsk turned toward him. Then he ran straight into the trap. Rian shouted, "Now!" Zilara sprinted behind the nearest wall. Rian hit the switch. The floor exploded downward. Dust and gravity warped violently as the destabilizer pulled Vorsk into the deep pit. But he grabbed the edge just in time. His hand metal sharp clutched the edge like a vice. Rian ran forward and kicked him once, twice, the third time. Vorsk grabbed Rian's leg. "You will fall with me," the assassin growled. But Zilara was already moving. With the last of her strength, she plunged her blade into Vorsk's arm. Sparks flew. The grip loosened. Rian pulled free and jumped back, and Vorsk fell down. Into the black gone. The trap closed behind him with a heavy slam. Silence returned. Zilara fell to the floor, coughing hard. Rian caught her. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded slowly, exhausted. "I am now." Outside, the night wind began to shift. The council had failed again. And this time, they wouldn't send another assassin, because something had changed. The so-called ugly daughter now had a protector, and, worse for them, she had found her strength. The desert wind was gentle at dawn. Above the rocky ridge, sunlight finally touched the old metal vault, revealing the cracks from the night's battle. Smoke still rose in small trails, and the scent of plasma still floated in the air. Inside, the silence was peaceful for the first time. Rian stood near the edge of the collapsed chamber, looking down into the black pit where Vorsk had fallen. No sound, no movement. Just stone, dust, and darkness. He didn't feel joy. He felt something deeper. Survival. Beside him, Zilara stood with her shoulder wrapped in fresh cloth. Her armor was damaged, her skin bruised, but her eyes held power now. She was no longer silent, no longer waiting for someone to save her. "You sure he's gone?" she asked. Rian nodded. "Even if he lived through the fall, the gravity field will keep him crushed down there, forever." She looked into the pit for a long time. Then she whispered, "Good." They walked back into the vault together. Rian checked the remaining supplies, the weapons cache, and the energy grid. Most of it was still usable. But something bigger had changed, not the place, but the purpose. "We can't keep hiding here," he said. "I know," she replied. "They'll come again. With votes, with lies, with armies if they must. They'll expect you to keep running." Zilara smiled quietly. "Then we'll do the opposite." Rian turned. "You're thinking of returning?" She nodded. "I am the last royal. If I keep running, they win. If I show myself strong, alive, and supported, they'll panic." "You want to walk into the lion's den?" he asked. "No," she said. "I want to claim it." He smiled, not out of amusement but pride. "You're ready." She looked at him. "Only because you stood beside me." He shook his head. "You didn't need me. You just needed someone to see who you really are." She stepped closer, standing eye to eye with him. "I see who you are too, Rian Hale. Not a soldier. Not a bodyguard. What then?" She paused, then said, "My equal." There was no ceremony, no crown, no throne room. But in that quiet vault, under dusty lights, something real was decided. She would return, not as a girl mocked by the council, but as Princess Zilara, rightful heir of Vor LL-9. And the men they all laughed at would stand at her side, not as her shield, but as her partner. A new transmission. came through their cum. It was from the outer planets. Whispers were spreading. The princess is alive. The human still stands. The will was true. Some wanted to fight. Others began to kneel. A week later, Zilara entered the Galactic Council hall, not in chains, not in fear, but in full armor. Her dress was lined with gold and iron, her blade strapped to her side. And Rian Hale walked beside her. The same nobles who laughed before were now silent. The council leader stood and asked, "Do you come to surrender?" Zilara's voice echoed through the chamber. "No, I come to rule." They couldn't stop her. They couldn't laugh anymore. And deep in every heart, one truth burned brighter than all the old lies. She was never ugly. They were just too blind to see her strength. And the only one who ever saw her clearly was the human they all thought didn't belong.